Welcome to the Dancing Druid. I am Root. While we may refer to land as property in legal proceedings, in conversation I encourage using language that reflects our deepest values. If we wish to lead the change of culture from a less exploitative one to a more moral order, then I feel the least we can do is reflect that with our words, if not in our deeds of property ownership. The word property could refer to any material object, a car, a table, a tool. Yet the word is almost never used in layman culture to refer to movable material objects. It is the cultural norm to equate property with land. People say, "This is beautiful property," and "they are on the property," etc. In my experience, the word land is almost never used in these same sentences. This habit, however innocent the person who may say it, is far from benign. It carries with it a bloody history and a cultural and economic agenda. The cultural norm of referring to land simply as property comes with a built-in bias in favor of European and settler points of view to the detriment of indigenous experience and outlooks. For those of us who reap the benefits of living in settler nations founded upon the act of colonial appropriation, it is especially important for us to challenge the perspective that we have been indoctrinated with by the dominant culture. For Enlightenment-era capitalists, as it is for modern-day ones, property was the hallmark of civilization. The narrative is that Europeans had it, indigenous people lacked it, and thus the progress of humanity was served when the former displaced the latter. This discourse runs parallel to the missionary ideal that fueled imperial expansion under the pretext of salvation. In any case, the term private property is a very greasy phrase, useful mainly for designating libertarian utopian ideals rather than actual legal practices or the reality of what areas of land really are and what their relationships are to living things. The fact is that land cannot be reduced to a material object. We may speak loosely of ownership of the soil, but land is not topsoil. We don't say that the proprietor of a building lot has less land after earth is removed to excavate the foundations. We might say that we claim as our property everything from this river to that rock. Or perhaps we may define it in geometric mathematical terms as a space identified by precise coordinates and therefore independent of whatever might occupy that space. And yet, someone else may own the right to extract oil, gas, or coal from beneath your land, or own the right to build roads, pipelines, or power lines across it. In residential zones, if a homeowner does not maintain a watered and mowed lawn, the Neighborhood Homeowners Association can force them out. If you plant too many trees, or not enough trees, or build something without permission, you may be dispossessed of your supposed property. If you fail to offer yearly tribute to the state for the right to own your property, then you will find that you didn't really own it after all. In agrarian societies, the plants growing on your land are yours because that is what makes the land valuable to you. But what about the animals that burrow into your ground or wander across it? Are they yours as well? Water runs across your boundaries and underground, connecting everything from the mountains to the oceans. The fact that the earth is covered with living things and is, according to some, itself a living organism, further complicates matters. If land is a portion of the earth, there is nothing simple about dividing it up into mine and yours, or ours. My conception of land is not a thing, but rather a fundamental structure of shared cultural reality. Nor is it exclusive. Political territory and various natural, sacred, and community spaces can and do coexist. These realities are lost, however, when land is reduced to the singular legal term, property. The common understanding of property in the context of land is inseparable from the project of capitalism, and it is both a powerful reality and an illusion, a hegemonic ideal that conceals other realities and histories. Something that feels important to me is spreading understanding of the prior and continuing existence of native space, not just land used by native plants and animals, but indigenous culture and reality as it relates to that land. It starts with the basic recognition that America was a pre-owned continent when Europeans arrived, its spaces already configured according to the economic and political arrangements of its complex indigenous societies. A crucial part of the colonial myth is that colonization erased native space immediately and fully. But, try as they might, even the most powerful modern agencies of transformation can never eliminate the ways native land tending transformed the land, both physically and culturally. I consider questions about the relationships between the establishment of settler practices and surviving native space, embodied by intact ecosystems, such as the riparian zone along the creek at Haven Root, and the remains of camas gardens and oak savanna, such as the camas patch that exists adjacent to the old oak and the horse corral. To one degree or another, property implies human control over ground and therefore over nature. That control may be lightly exercised and can be perfectly compatible with a reciprocal sense of nature or the earth's power over humanity. On the other hand, as a cultural manifestation, it fosters an absolutist form from its history and as a law-enshrined societal aspiration. In modern society, land property implies complete mastery over it and nature, where it is possible for the owner of a mountain to blow up the mountain to obtain the mineral rights. As good as people's intentions may be, there is nevertheless an underlying cultural sense that there is an evolution of history with a clear direction and an ultimate destination, and that the destination corresponds to the condition of the contemporary developed world. Colonial myth holds that settlers may have treated natives badly, but they ultimately acted as the agents of modernization, namely that they divided America into private property that we are now free to buy. It may have been a painful historical process, but it was a necessary and ultimately beneficial one, so the narrative implies. By framing the narrative of history on a linear track of progress and assuming the inevitability of current affairs, this view of the emergence of private property resembles the narrative of manifest destiny, which excused and encouraged native extermination and land exploitation. The drive for human mastery over nature can be seen in the ideal of absolute ownership, as well as in the modern preference for property systems that facilitate the exploitation of resources. Humans did not create the land, and yet it is a common belief that it belongs to us and exists entirely for our purposes. F2 zoned land is defined as forest use only, meaning not that the land is used by the forest, but rather that the forest is used by humans for maximum exploitation of it and is enforced by law. In places designated as wilderness, land is considered purely nature, even though its wildness is very much culturally constructed. But where the soil is cultivated for farming, or where it underlies houses, or streets, or parking lots, it is thought of as purely under human power, which is to say, as property. Capitalism treats owned land as though its legally defined identity is all that matters, and as though it is separate from the rest of the earth. If I believe that cultural change is possible, then the least I can do towards this end is to choose my words with that intention, and I hope you feel the same. Thank you for listening, and until next time, you have all my very best wishes.